All right, so here's the DOJ. Apparently, they're talking about Russian interference, so that kind of piques my interest and Paul's as well. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say.
Our Criminal Division Chief, Alicia Washington, and Assistant United States Attorneys Aaron Zelinsky and Bobby Golderis. Next, you'll hear from FBI Special Agent in Charge.
I live on the dang thing. Me too.
Thank you.
How's the volume? This guy seems low to me.
Good afternoon. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Barron, for hosting us today. We thank you and Assistant Attorney General Olson for the collaboration, expertise, and hard work that brought us here. I'm Bill Delbano. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Baltimore Field Office. Today is about partnerships,
not too bad. Good.
Commitment, and accountability. We are here, yes, to announce this indictment, but we're also equally here to highlight the international coordination and robust partnerships with our allies around the world. This type of cyber warfare will not be tolerated. The scope of Russia's crimes cannot be ignored.
So we saw this yesterday where they came out and they announced in the White House press briefing that there was a lot of Russian interference. They didn't get to specifics besides maybe kind of hinting at the video we watched yesterday where the lady was saying that Kamala Harris hit her when she was younger and made her with her car and made her paralyzed. That was the only thing that was even kind of hinted at. I wish they would give specific details on what actually is going on, what accounts are tied to this. I saw some things on X where they were trying to say like Tim Pool and all these like Republicans were tied to a certain company that was paying them, that was through Russia to, state certain things. I don't know if that was true or not. I'm hoping they actually kind of like give us what exactly are they talking about? What kind of misinformation is out there? Give us specifics. They're saying Tim Pool and Dave Rubin are paid by the Russia. Yeah, exactly. That's what I saw on X. One other person also, I saw it was like your typical Republicans were being paid. But I just saw that briefly on X, so I didn't know how true it was. That one is a big deal. Exactly. That is a big deal. So I want to give us specifics. Like, are they talking about these streamers or not?
Ukraine, the United States, and 26 NATO countries were all targeted by this group of Russian military. We are aligned in our unified response, and we will collectively defend against Russia's aggressive and illegal actions. The FBI and our partners call this investigation Operation Toy Soldier. Through strokes on a keyboard, these criminals crossed over borders into countries.
Whoa. I would never consider Tim Pool to be a Republican. That's where I started to get very confused. If he's a Republican, then what am I? He's super left. To be honest, I don't watch his show. I just kind of assumed he was Republican. Maybe he is left. Maybe some clips. I just kind of thought maybe he was more right, kind of along that like Joe Rogan right angle, those kind of guys. Maybe libertarian. I wouldn't call those guys typical Republicans. They are far right, in my opinion. See, that's where I don't watch them, so I don't actually know where they're aligned. I just assumed.
Hunting to find weaknesses and seeking to harm. The Whispergate malware attack in January of 2022 could be considered the first shot of the war. The cyber criminals sent a message with their malware, telling Ukrainians to, quote, be afraid and expect the worst. A month later, Russia physically invaded the country. These 6 criminals aim to cripple Ukraine's government and critical infrastructure.
Joe Rogan is also left. Have him say why, because I listened to both of them and they're very liberal. Yeah, they're liberal. So kind of what we were talking about earlier, how people who were formerly on the left are now on the right, that they're considered right now because of the shift in the political spectrum. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like typically they would be considered Democrats by their views, but they're not anymore, I guess. And how many stances do you need from one side or the other to be considered one? But why though? Why? I don't know. But I did see there is some information. I'm going to bring this up just so I can kind of get what they're talking about, because I haven't really watched the news this morning just to see what's going on. So this is AP News, and it says right-wing influencers were duped to work for covert Russian influence operation. So it says they have millions of followers online. They have been major players in the right-wing political discourse since Donald Trump was president, and they worked unknowingly for a company that was a front for a Russian influence operation, U.S. prosecutors say. An indictment filed Wednesday alleges a media company linked to 6 conservative influencers, including well-known personalities such as Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, was secretly funded by Russian state media employees to churn out English language videos that were often consistent with Kremlin interest in amplifying the U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to Russian interests, like its war in Ukraine. So that's where you can kind of see where I was getting that the news is considering these guys right wing. You can kind of call them whatever you want, but the meat of the matter is we had known Russian influence, and that's what the DOJ should be giving us the details on here.
By targeting their finances, agriculture, emergency services, healthcare, and schools. These same criminals are accused of repeatedly targeting U.S. computer networks, including a government agency here in Maryland, scanning it more than 60 times for vulnerabilities. They committed fraud in the U.S. by illegally accessing bank accounts and using U.S. company to carry out their criminal acts. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners and allies, will relentlessly hunt down and counter these threats. We have worked closely to thwart additional targeting by this group. The 6 Russians in this indictment are not advanced cyber masterminds, but are adept at exploiting vulnerabilities that countries and companies can guard against with simple steps. In conjunction with this indictment, the FBI and more than a dozen government partners and countries are issuing a joint cybersecurity advisory. It details exactly how these malicious cyber criminals carried out this attack and what can be done to prevent it. This indictment is the result of years of collaborating with our partners in dozens of different countries.
Stone says, so what, because they're anti-war? So I just looked through that article to try to see if there was something else that they said. The only reference that they have is the statement that because they were wanting to end the war, or being more anti-Ukraine, rather, not even really being anti-war. That's right-wing now. I mean, that's what I was hoping that the guy would be saying. What exactly was misinformation that was spilled into the public? This article didn't say anything besides the Ukraine stuff. That's really the only political thing that I see. So they really have to give us some specifics. At least Garland is doing something about something. I never heard them be anti-Ukraine. That's just from this article here. That's the message that this company was trying to put out there, that they should be more anti-Ukraine. It just says, supporting Kremlin's interests, but it doesn't really say anything of what they were doing. Maybe because they're still in the investigation process, they don't want to actually give more details. Yeah, the only thing it says, with Kremlin's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to Russian interests, like the war in Ukraine. So we have to think what narrative is pro Kremlin that they might have been saying. These guys, again, I don't watch them, so I don't know what they're saying. I honestly thought they were right wing. So that tells you how much I know about these guys.
And law enforcement in Europe. We thank each of them for their diligence and dedication that led to today. As you've heard, there's a combined $60 million reward for information on these criminals' locations and their cyber crimes. To the Russian criminals, the world is watching. You do not carry out misdeeds in the dark we are united in identifying, prosecuting, and protecting against future crimes. Thank you. And I'll now open it up for questions. And if you have questions that are directed to any one of us, please let us know.
After the last 8 years, can we trust anything that from the DOJ or what any government agency says? I would believe that Russia probably does interfere with our elections. I don't think that's far-fetched to say that. They're very anti-Putin, so I don't know. Yeah, it's true. They're going to be anti-Putin. Paul says, I watch how Sparks cover their videos, debunk and crack jokes on them. Yeah. See, I'm not even involved in that. I honestly don't watch them, so I don't know. I doubt they'd talk so much trash about him if they were in favor of him. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. The reporters are actually going to ask him questions, so hopefully they can give us more finer details here of actually what was going on.
Name and your outlet before you ask the question. That'd be great. Just about with Fox 45. I have 3 questions. The first one, you just said $60 million. Is it $10 million reward for each of them?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that they are in the country or out of the country? Do you know where they could be?
They're not to believe to be in the country. There are steps that are going to be taken, though, in order to bring this indictment to fruition. And we will partner with Interpol in order to serve red notices and ensure that if they are in a location that can be affected, that we'll take those on.
Do you have an idea which country they are in?
These are Russian military, and I'll leave it, at that. But to say that
The debates are coming the 10th, man. That's next week, Stone. So in a debate format, that's what we need. We need to see how she acts. She's going to get asked questions. It's going to be hopefully, it should be live. That's what we're hoping. It's not going to be some fucked up CNN coverage or something. I just want to see her answering questions live one time before deciding who I'm voting for. Exactly. So this debate, man, I'm going to live stream it. It's in 5 days. So we'll actually get to see how Kamala reacts. We can kind of get a better idea, especially as Trump's going to be firing probably his typical insults at her. Debate will be fire. Yeah. And this is actually a good find, Paul. I didn't see this morning. So this is kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with these guys. So these streamers or whatever, I'm assuming they're streamers, Tim Pool and all that. I don't know if they just do long form videos, whatever. The people that are on YouTube, are they saying that they are associated with the businesses that were part of Russia and they knew about it? And now they're doing an investigation to see if there was some funky stuff going on. Are they trying to say that they need to be prosecuted, or are they saying they didn't know about it? This was just a company that came along and told them to fit this narrative, which that should kill their audience right there. If they're showing hard facts that they were paid to give any narrative, you think that would kill their audience, right? Who wants to watch somebody that's paid? I mean, because I don't watch Tim Pool, but isn't he the guy that's like, oh, I'm against the mainstream media, and then this comes out and he's being paid to give a narrative? Isn't that kind of fucked up, right? You're a good dude. Thanks, man. Better than all these commie bastards on here. Yeah, exactly. But isn't that true? Like, isn't Tim Pool the anti kind of government guy and all that? And this dude is being paid to give a narrative. What's the good word? Oh, we watching the Department of Justice get questioned by journalists.
Wherever they are, the important thing is that we are working with all our partners, our NATO partners, to protect against this type of action, but also to have the impact that we want to have with this indictment.
And then my very last question, can you say which U.S. companies or agencies had their computer systems implicated in this?
No, we wouldn't cover any victims.
It was the Civil War shit. I mean, I know countries are going to make us divisive, but what exactly was he saying about the Civil War?
This announcement, it's
important that I didn't watch it.
Maintain their privacy in that.
You said that Sorry, Phil Yakovlevsky from WBAL Radio. You said that the U.S. government agency located everyone. They're trying to get through 63 times. Were they able to get any information, or was it stopped? Was that part of how you sort of figured out who these folks were?
Not necessarily getting into the investigative side, but scanning for vulnerabilities to try to identify ways to get into those companies or agencies is a manner in which overseas adversaries attempt to compromise the U.S. And what we do is we partner very closely with all our partner agencies and with all our partner countries in order to protect against those type of vulnerabilities. And in the Joint Cybersecurity Advisory, those steps are laid out as to how to best handle those type of vulnerabilities, but also, the potential for those type of scannings as well.
And you said that Ukrainians had their personal information taken or stolen. Do you have any reason to believe that Americans might be affected by this? The average citizen.
I don't have reason to believe that. As you mentioned, this malware attack, Whispergate attack, on the Ukrainians, while was meant to pose as a ransomware that was meant to make them believe that they could recover their data, was in fact just destroying the computers. It was taking the data and erasing it, making those computers inoperable. They did extract that information from the Ukrainians.
You can pull up the indictment. Yeah, I'll try to see if I can Google it. And always had a shit-eating grin on his face when he talked about it. Of course he did. He was getting paid, man. Can you imagine the amount of money that was being shilled out to him just to state something? And now he might find his ass in jail.
And that presents vulnerabilities. And that's why this is important for all of us to include, from Maryland's to Americans across the U.S., to our NATO allies, to understand that these vulnerabilities need to be protected, and that the potential of your personal information is the job of the FBI and our.
Of what I heard, it was up to $100K per video. Jesus. And so what happens now? Does the government come in and seize those assets?
Our partners to help protect that.
Jeff Hager with WMAR-TV. If these weren't really cyber masterminds, even if you scooped up all 6 and paid the reward, what's to keep Russia from just pushing another 6 people into their place and filling that void? What keeps Russia from doing this?
Well, part of the indictment is also to impose risk and consequences to the actions that are being taken. And really, if there's a message that could also be delivered, it's to those that would potentially.
All right, here we go, Paul. I found it. So here's the indictment. I'm going to look at it just a little bit of, I need more details because I don't know what's going on. So introduction, it says RT, formerly known as Russia Today, is a state-controlled media outlet funded and directed by the government of Russia. After Russia invaded Ukraine on February 2022, RT was sanctioned, dropped by distributors, and ultimately forced to cease formal operations in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and European Union. In response, RT created, in the words of its editor-in-chief, an entire empire of covert projects designed to shape public opinion in Western audiences. One of RT's covert projects, as described herein, is its funding and direction of a Tennessee-based online content creation company. Okay. All right, so that sets us up for what actually is going on here, this RT company. Okay, over at least the past year, RT and its employees, including whatever that Russian name is, Katya, and Lena, the defendants, have deployed nearly 10 million laundered through a network of foreign shell entities to covertly fund the direct U.S. company. So the company publishes English language videos on multiple social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube, using multiple fake personas, Afianzia, or whatever that company's called in Russian, edited, posted, and directed the posting by U.S. company one of hundreds of videos. Okay, let's get to the meat of what actually is going on, though. Yeah, so basically it's saying the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying the U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to the core government of Russia interest, which is what we read in most of the new news articles. But specifically, what are we looking at here? So they've done 2,000 videos that have garnered more than 6 million views on YouTube alone. And never disclosed to its viewers that it was funded and directed by RT. Of course not. They're trying to have propaganda. Why would they do that? Okay, so, and this is where we're talking here. So it's saying this company also worked together to deceive 2 U.S. online commentators. That's what they're calling them, streamers or whatever. But it says, who respectively have over 2.4 million and 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. Founder 1 and Founder 2 contracted with Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 to produce videos using Commentators 1 and Commentators 2 own names and leveraging their existing audience for license and publication by company. Okay, but what did they say? By falsely portraying to Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 that U.S. Company 1 was sponsored by a private investor named Edward Grigorian, whatever that is. Gregorian. Okay, but specifically, yeah, we get it. They were paid. I get that. What exactly was the narrative that they're throwing out there? Let me see what they said deceive. If that's true, they should be held accountable. But if these guys didn't know what they were doing, can we hold them accountable? Let's say Tim Pool didn't know this was a Russian media company. He's just a guy who somebody's throwing money at him. Is it really his fault? I agree, Stoner. If they didn't know, they aren't too bright. Sure, we could say they're stupid and that they didn't know it. But what if they legitimately didn't? What if somebody comes at you and they're telling you, what did Paul say? It was like 100K a video. And you're like, holy shit, all I got to do is say this thing and I'm going to make enough money to buy a house. I'm going to be rich. Maybe they weren't thinking this is Russian media news, and trying to deceive the American public. And even if they were, so what? They're, I don't know if I would say they're minor streamers because they have millions of viewers, but still, isn't that freedom of speech kind of thing as well? Shit, that is too good to be true. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's say then that they actually knew what they were doing and they were being paid to say things on their platform. Isn't that still free speech? If they know that's basically treason, though. Okay, yeah, we could argue that. That could be treason in a way. Can you even hold a civilian accountable for treason, though? A civilian who's just a streamer, they don't have any form of, they're not in the government, Can you hold them accountable for treason? I don't know. When I was in the military, hell yeah, they would hold me accountable. But if you're just a civilian, you're just some dude who has a YouTube channel, is that treason? Edward Snowden's different. He had a security clearance. That's where they hold you accountable to treason. And he worked for the government. Yeah, exactly. He worked directly for the NSA. So I can tell you work for the NSA, you are signing NDAs and all of these agreements where they throw your ass in jail if you violate your security clearance. But a civilian? I don't know if they can. But would you be responsible if you found out the CEO of the company you work for is a spy? I don't think so. If you didn't know that they were a spy, How are they going to hold you accountable? Have there ever been any treason cases ushered against the civilian? I don't know. A civilian who's not in the government and doesn't hold a security clearance. I could see them coming in and seizing all the assets as, I don't know, collateral to the case. I could see them maybe doing that. But could they actually do something to Tim Pool? Well, they got Trump for the Stormy Daniels thing. And even that, people question it. And with that case, there was something legitimate to it. It was some kind of accounting error, which is against the law, even though people don't usually prosecute people for that. But they did hold them accountable for something. And he had no idea where the money was coming from. Do you have to know where money's coming from? Because let's say like a business reaches out to me and they want to give me money. Am I going to have to research where they made their money? That seems almost impossible. It's just two businesses talking to each other. When you go to Walmart and you buy something, you're not asking where the revenue comes from. And if Walmart was laundering money, they wouldn't hold you accountable for purchasing something there. Give me a second. I'm going to go to the restroom. Okay. Was part of it. So basically, Trump has a ton of money, told Michael Cohen to take care of it, and Michael Cohen apparently took the money from his campaign financing instead of his previous assets. I think I missed part of that conversation. But let me see this here. Let's see what's going on. They're telling me, okay, now my stream's fine. They were telling me they weren't getting enough data there, but I don't know what was happening. What would the scenario be if we found out that MSNBC was owned by a Russian company? Well, that would be critical. What would they do? They probably would. I'm sure they would shut the company down. I don't believe our government is going to let a Russian narrative just keep going out there. You know, they're not going to allow them to keep doing that. MSNBC is more likely to be owned by China. Yep, maybe. So let me look more into this. I want to see specifically like what they did. It's talking about seizing operations, background on certain individuals and entities. Background on foreign agents. No. RT's covert operations through U.S. company. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's saying Founder One began working with an individual operating under the fictitious name of Edward, and 3 purported representatives of Edward. Persona 2, Persona 3 to launch a new YouTube channel initially under the name Viewpoint Productions. I've never heard of them. I don't know, it kind of sounds familiar actually, to be honest. But I don't know them enough. On or about January 10th, Persona 2 told Founder 1 that Founder 1's first task was to find a personality that could serve as the face of the channel, and that for the right candidate, we're willing to pay around $1 to $2 million per year. Persona 2 sent Founder 1 a proposed contract for Founder 1's influencer talent scouting services. Man, this shit's getting sketchy. All right, so they're going to pay this influencer who is not named under this channel. So I believe all of this. I'm with them. I understand that they think this company is from Russia and that they were setting out to put some misinformation out there. But what was the misinformation? That's what I want to know. I don't need all the fine details on believing what happened. I just want to know what actually was said. So here is the flyer for what they were going to pay. I'm all for stopping foreign election interference. Are they looking into the extreme left streamers as well? It seems to always be the right. Yeah, man, I'm with you. You don't see that. Who do you consider extreme left? That's a good question. I guess like who's that one dude, like Hazan? I don't watch these left streamers, but they're out there. I think that dude probably for sure. I think his name's like something with an H. Do you believe in conspiracies? I mean, I'm sure there's some truth to some of these. Extreme left are communists and people that want to legalize pedophilia and stuff like that. Yeah, Hassanabi, that guy. I would say he's probably extreme left. He's enraging. I've never actually watched a video with him, so let me just say that when I say he's probably extreme left. I don't know because I don't watch his channel. But from what I've heard, he is extreme left. He also said something stupid like streaming was the hardest job ever. I thought that was just dumb. There's nobody I hate more in life than campaign socialist. Is he a socialist? I've been in poverty my whole life. I would assume he probably has some socialist policies that he's back in there. What is this? Okay. I think it may be because that's usually a term used by liberals, but we're trying to create a conservative network. See, this is what I was getting at. They were targeting conservatives. That's why I said these guys were on the right. They're looking for people that will actually listen to like a Republican viewpoint. Let me see this. I'm almost 20 pages into this and it still hasn't said exactly what they did. Begin operations. Okay, here we go. In the weeks that followed, Founder One subdivided the U.S. company One Discord server into various Discord channels, including channels for individual contributors and their teams to discuss production-related matters, a channel to discuss pitches and story concepts, and channels for production team to post videos for publication. Okay, so this is where they're kind of getting their ideas in this Discord channel of what they're actually going to throw out there. So it looks like they did it all through Discord. Go figure. Editorial roles. Okay. All right. Blah, 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 blah. They want me to post this referencing the video that they had posted, but it just feels like overt shilling. So this person questioned what they were doing. Thinks we should put it out there. Okay. As another example, on or about March 22, the Helena company shared in the producer Discord channel a video of the March 22 terrorist attack on a music venue in Moscow, which killed approximately 145 people and injured hundreds more. Okay, that makes sense. So they're throwing out a like sympathy angle for Russia. Producer one privately messaged founder one writing, "I don't know if you saw it, but they want me to post some footage from an attack in Moscow today. There's a watermark in the middle of the page that's blurred, which looks bad, and it's also pretty graphic. You can see people getting shot, albeit from far away." Founder one did not push back on the content of the clip, but replied in their producer's Discord channel, "I'm not sure it's a good idea to blur out someone's watermark." It's fine, no worries. It falls under fair use. Producer one and producer two found a clip of the attack without a watermark and posted the clip to X, satisfying the request. The next day, on or about March 23, the company privately messaged founder one on Discord asking that one of our creators record something about the Moscow terror attack. Okay, now we're actually into what they did here. Despite public reporting that the foreign terrorist organization ISIS had claimed responsibility for the attack, the company requested that U.S. company one blame Ukraine and the United States, writing, "I think we can focus on the Ukraine-U.S. angle." The mainstream media spread fake news that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS itself never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they were heading to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious why they would want to go to Ukraine to hide. Okay, now this is what we're talking about here. Founder one responded that founder one would ask commentator three, and the next day confirmed that commentator three said he's happy to cover it. Okay, that makes sense. We need the cliff notes. That's the cliff notes in there, yeah. So basically, this is what we're looking at this here. So mainstream media was saying this was an ISIS attack, while they were being paid to say Moscow was being attacked by Ukraine, because obviously we didn't want attacks actually happening in Russia. That was never what we actually agreed upon. That's the issue they're even having now, as Ukraine is trying to get these long-range missiles from the U.S. That's the meat of what is going on right now. So this makes sense how they're trying to spin that narrative. Anyone else find it sketchy that they never use names on these? If these charges are that bad, shouldn't they be using names instead of producer? Yeah, man, it just confuses people. Especially if it's already out there in the open. We already know who is involved in this, but I guess specific details, I don't know. I'm sure there are ongoing investigations. Yes. But this makes more sense. So, and it's basically saying that some of these people in here thought what they were posting was shady, but they still wanted the money, so they did it. So now that we know that, do we hold them accountable? It's almost like they knew they were doing potentially something wrong, but they still posted it. Yeah, the U.S. company one received its 30 inbound wire transfers from 7 foreign entities, none of which were U.S. companies. And they didn't think some of this was kind of shady? Like, come on. They're going to play dumb is my guess. So now grifting is illegal? How many grifters are there? Exactly. So even then, even in, like, they're still just citizens, right? And they still have free speech. Isn't it the DOJ's job to come in and shut them down and say, you know, this is actually what's occurring. You need to stop doing this, and they'll agree to that. But up until that point, isn't it still free speech? As wrong as it may be, can they hold them accountable? This is just the allegations. Forfeiture allegations. That's pretty much it. So, okay, at least now we have a better idea of what was going on. Makes a lot more sense now.
Those individuals. This isn't a place where they should seek to use their skills. It's not a place that we want them to be employed, and they should consider elsewhere, because this indictment, while it goes to Interpol, as I mentioned, if nothing else, landlocks these individuals into Russia, where they may be, or has them looking over their shoulders at any given time. So perhaps those that are considering this as a future employment or ways to have their cyber skill set, perhaps it discourages them from doing that. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. If I may, to answer your question in a little bit, totally agree with the special agent in charge and as to why we bring this case and why we bring cases like this. First and foremost, it is to hold these individuals accountable. As Bill said, they are marked people now. We know who they are. There's a reward on their head, and we're going to pursue them relentlessly. So that's reason one. Reason two is to expose the techniques they've used, because when we put these techniques and tools that they've used into our indictment and we say we're going to back this up with evidence in a courtroom, that shows not only the Russians, but it shows our private sector partners on how to protect themselves. And then finally, the message is clear to the GRU and to the Russians. We are on to you. We penetrated your systems. The FBI, the Department of Justice will be relentless in pursuing you. And so you better pay attention to the fact that we have gotten to you and we are in your system. So that sends a very strong deterrent message, and we've seen that message take hold in other cases like this. So that's why we bring these cases.
I have a question.
They didn't really say what they were talking about here, so I'm just going to pull that up here because it's getting kind of confusing. Basically, they're saying that ransomware attack compromises microchip technology employee data. Just to give you the overview of what they're actually talking about, it says, Bleeping Computer reports that U.S. semiconductor manufacturer Microchip Technology has disclosed the exfiltration of some employees' data in a ransomware attack last month claimed by the Play ransomware operation, as it confirmed the recovery of critical IT systems disrupted by the intrusion. So there's some kind of manufacturing issue going on. Go figure, that is giving ransomware attacks into the systems. And obviously in a ransomware attack, people don't usually get their computer back. They send their Bitcoin in and their computer still gets wiped because people are assholes.
Kate Amara from WBAL-TV from the Can't Hurt to Ask file. I know
What is this? No opinion about a Chinese company owning U.S. soil, but Russia propaganda is where we draw the line. Or Chinese buying farmlands around military bases or anything about that. They want the info and tools to use on other countries.
We weren't going to talk specifically about victims, but the sheer number of federal agencies in our state begs the question: should people be worried that their, Social Security information, health information? We have Walter Reed, we have NIH, we have the FDA.
Yes.
We have the NSA.
You should be worried.
Be worried that their private information was part of this. And my second question: the private company that unknowingly had their servers used, did they report it to the feds, or did you tell that company that they were being used? And what's the lesson there for every other company out there?
I'm going to turn it over to the U.S. Attorney on the specifics of the case. I will just say before I do so that
That dude's bailing.
Every federal agency, every private sector entity, is at some risk in this current environment where cybersecurity just has to be a paramount concern, and that's why we work so hard to be good partners to the private sector in understanding the threats they face, sharing threat information with them, and again, when we have a case like this, bringing the case to bring the perpetrators to justice.
He said, "Gotta go, guys."
Sure, just to follow up, and we can't get into investigative techniques. I can stay within the four corners of the indictment and tell you that there were dozens of scans for vulnerabilities through this Maryland-based U.S. government agency and others throughout the world. It's something that our partners, our private sector partners, the public in general should know. Whether or not personally identifiable information was exposed, that's not a part of this indictment, but certainly as a general matter, the message here is prevention and intervention. And the message by this announcement is that there are many cyber criminals out there, some sponsored by states, some state and country sponsored cyber criminals who are out to expose and get at either a government or companies' information or our own individual information. And so that we should all be very vigilant in taking the necessary steps, recommended steps, best practices, so to speak, to protect our information.
And quickly, are you able to say which came first? Did the private company alert you, or did you alert them that they were being scanned?
Right, again, that's kind of outside the indictment and part of our investigation, but again, part of this announcement is that is one way that we as law enforcement are able to connect the dots, so to speak, in an investigation. When we have those public-private sector partnerships, we need businesses out there, companies out there to report when things happen. We need them to be vigilant about their cybersecurity infrastructure and collaborate with us and with one another. And that way we can gather evidence and bring in indictments such as this.
So when he's talking about this indictment, it basically comes from this here. This is CBS News. It says, a new lawsuit is claiming hackers have gained access to the personal information of billions of individuals, including their social security numbers, current and past addresses, and the names of siblings and parents. Personal data that could allow fraudsters to infiltrate financial accounts to take out loans in their names. The allegations arose in a lawsuit filed earlier this month by Christopher Hoffman, a California resident who claimed his identity theft protection service alerted him that his personal information has been leaked to the dark web by nationalpublicdata.com breach. The lawsuit was earlier reported by Bloomberg Law. So there was some kind of breach going on. It says the breach allegedly occurred around April with a hacker group called US DOD Exfiltration, the unencrypted personal information of or exfiltrating the unencrypted personal information of billions of individuals from a company called National Public Data, a background check company. According to the lawsuit, earlier this month, a hacker leaked a version of the stolen MPD data for free on a hacking forum. That's great. Considering I just applied to get a job and had to do a background check from a third party, it's really great to know that people are hacking those platforms and taking everybody's data. I am super excited about that. Like I said yesterday, all this could be avoided if every U.S. citizen could just watch the DOD cybersecurity CBT. Yeah. And if they pick to choose to run after the person, because that's always the correct answer. But thanks to this economy, the hackers would have to pay down my debt first to get a loan. Exactly. Sucks to suck, hackers. You can't do shit.
Thanks, everybody. If you didn't get to ask a question, you can just direct them to me.
Thanks, everyone.
Is that it for them? That's all the news they got? They're not going to take more questions? Really? That was good, though. That was actually interesting. That was Paul. That was all Paul bringing up that.